Hey guys, Alex and Dad from 7th Hour Films back again with Doctor Who. Last time around was The Girl in the Fireplace. What happened on that one?
Well, that was a rewatch. Mickey had come along from the previous episode. They landed on a spaceship, which seemed to be having all sorts of weird problems with it. They found what looked to be a camera, except that it had an eyeball in it. And then they found some machinery with a heart in it. And all this was hooked up to a random fireplace, which was a portal back to the 1700s. And the doctor went through it, found a young girl who was being threatened by some kind of mechanical man. And he would go back several times, but each time it wasn't just a few minutes. In his time, it was a few weeks or a few months or even a few years. Ultimately, you find out that the ship had been crewed by humanoids, but that when the ship broke down, the robots tried to fix it, but they didn't have parts, so they started killing and dismembering the humans and making them part of it. And then for some reason, they had to go back in time to find this young girl who was like Marie Antoinette, but they kept saying she wasn't complete yet or something. They had to wait for a certain time. And the doctor finally figured it out, decided he was going to take, not Marie Antoinette, Madame Pompadour.
Yeah.
And he was going to take her so that she could see the stars, and unfortunately he came back too late. She had already passed away. And it was only at the very end, as the spaceship was pulling away, that you realized why they had fixated on her, is that it was a ship named after Madame Pompadour.
Yeah. So they, if anything, they just weren't the most sophisticated of robots, you know. They just have these simple orders to fix the ship. You didn't exclude the humans from the repair parts, and they thought, well, the ship is the Madame de Pompadour. Let's go and get the other Madame de Pompadour. She should have the compatible parts that we need. And they were, at the very least, they were sophisticated enough to blow multiple holes through time to go and find her. So, but yeah, and it ended with the tragedy, basically, that she had passed away before the doctor could come and get her. And yeah, honestly, to me, it's still the quintessential Doctor Who episode. It's futuristic stuff. It's the past. It's tragedy, it's comedy, it's everything that the show should be, all in one episode.
And a nice little twist. He realized, before he went back the last time, that if he went back, he would break the portal and he'd be stuck there. But he didn't mind that, because he seemed to have some kind of affinity for Madame Pompadour. And then she surprised him by saying that when she moved to the palace, she had her old fireplace disassembled from where she used to live and reassembled in the palace. And then he realized that the portal was still intact and he could go home that way.
Yeah, and essentially, if she had just gone through the portal with him at that moment, she would have been fine. But the fact that he went through alone, found Mickey and Rose, told him everything was okay, and then went back, it was already just too late. Too many years had passed, so yeah, that's pretty much where we left off. Today we're moving on to episode 5 of season 2, or series 2, or whatever ungodly thing you want to call it. But yeah, this episode has a spoiler in the title. I have gone in to the actual episode and I've taken out the actual title so that it won't spoil the reveal. And then I looked at it and I said, what are the odds he's going to get it before the title would even have a chance to pop up? So
we shall see what we shall see.
Yeah, so that's pretty much where we are. So we'll get to that. I mean, when I watched it the first time, it wasn't really a spoiler because I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know anything about Doctor Who. So yeah. On a slightly unrelated note, I just had the idea just before we started recording. I wonder if anyone would be interested in like a master playlist of all Doctor Who, because I don't know why I just thought of this, where like I thought about making a playlist that has every Doctor Who video that's ever been on this channel, all in the proper chronological order, if you want to go through from where I first watched Doctor Who to now, with just everything in the proper order. It'd be Doctor Who Torchwood, Sarah Jane, Classic Who, this modern Who series, all of it. So, I don't know why I just had that idea. And then you can go through that entire playlist, and then you can remember, yeah, there is another Doctor Who spinoff that I just did not watch. There was one that's around the 12th Doctor's era, and I always said, yeah, I'll watch that at some point. And I just never have. And with every passing day, it becomes too late to start. So, like, I've also joked that, like, at some point I'm going to, like, just watch it all in one go and put it all up as one reaction, and I just still haven't done it. So, apparently it's not the most well-received spin-off, so there aren't people really clamoring for that reaction, but there are people clamoring, in quotes, for Torchwood reactions. Okay, let's just put the general question out there. Would you be okay if we literally just stopped watching Doctor Who for 13 weeks and watched Torchwood instead? Because that's where we're about to get to. Or we alternate between them. 1 week we watch Doctor Who, 1 week we watch Torchwood, and it just goes back and forth until we get through a season. I don't know. Because there's a part of me that thinks, can we really just, like, keep going forever? Because there's a lot we got to go through, Well, I had episodes from like 4 years ago come up on my memories, and it was the Gunfighters. So yeah, I mean,
4 years ago.
We've done it. We've gone through all of classic Doctor Who, and that took a lot of time, and it will take a lot of time to get through modern Doctor Who, but we could do that. We could go, like, either just take a break, which would basically mean after this season, stop and then do the first season of Torchwood, or we can alternate. 1 week we watch Torchwood season 1, 1 week we watch season 3 of Doctor Who. I don't know. We could do that. On an unrelated, slightly note, you hear the news about Good Omens?
Yes, that it was like going to be 1 90-minute episode.
Yeah, after the, to put it mildly, drama that's been going on with Neil Gaiman, they've decided they're bringing in a new writer. They're just going to do a 90-minute episode and conclude it. I guess maybe that's another question for the folks at home. Do you actually want us to watch that? Do you want to watch that, first of all?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Then we will watch it, because there is a part of me that thinks, oh joy, I'm so glad I spent all that time on season 2, which we didn't really care for, all for a 90-minute final episode that probably isn't going to be satisfying at all. That said, there's pretty bad circumstances going around there, so I don't really blame them for going this route. Yeah. I'm amazed they didn't just cancel it outright, but yeah, it is definitely one of those things though where I'm just like, man, I wish you just left it at season 1 then, because other than the Job storyline, there was really nothing worth it in season 2. So, and now that we have sparked flames and fanned them to some degree, I guess we should get started. So, unless you have anything else.
I was just going to say we are, tonight and tomorrow, our last 2 shows of our season. So, we have the awards ceremony next Saturday. And then after that, we don't start rehearsals for the next show until January 6th. So I should look slightly more refreshed, not having been out late on Friday nights being producer at the theater. And I think I've mentioned I'm directing the first show of our 67th season, The Scarlet Pimpernel by Baroness Orczy, as adapted by Beverly Cross, which they did at the Chichester Festival in 1985.
So essentially, it's time for the holidays.
Yes.
And it's time to relax.
Yes.
Halloween, Thanksgiving, that nobody talks about anymore, and then Christmas. And I guess technically the election, if you count that as an American holiday.
We're hoping that does not, send us into a dystopia.
Don't worry. This will just be the last Christmas. Don't worry. Maybe the last Christmas in the States. I don't know.
Anywho.
Let's get going.
All right, here we go.
I hardly think working is the correct word. That would apply only to machines.
Sorry. I should say, it's alive.
Can it hear me?
Might still be in shock. Bear in mind the brain has been welded to the exoskeleton.
Skin of metal. Captain. Yes, sir. Inform all staff. We have a new destination. Set sail for Great Britain.
Right, so you totally haven't figured out from these subtle as bricks clues there, right?
Well, no.
Good! Because just watching that, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's already too much. Alright, if you haven't figured it out, I feel better. Well, gee, what could it be, I wonder?
What are you doing that for?
Because you told me to.
When was that?
About half an hour ago.
You can let go now.
Well, how long's it been since I could have stopped?
10 minutes? 20? 29?
You just forgot me.
No. I was calibrating. No, I know exactly what I'm doing.
Jeez, you should have kept that button down.
The silent realm. The lost dimension.
Otherwise known as London.
It's pretty ballsy to just open the door into nothing.
That includes the Zeppelins?
What the hell?
It's beautiful.
Okay, so it's London with a big international Zeppelin festival.
This is not your world.
You've seen it on films, like an alternative to our world where everything's the same but a little bit different. Like, I don't know, Traffic Lights are blue, Tony Blair never got elected.
He's still alive.
Your father's dead. He died when you were 6 months old. That is not your Pete. That is a Pete. For all we know, he's got his own Jackie, his own Rose, his own daughter who is someone else, but not you. You can't see him, not ever.
Even in a parallel world, they still drive on the wrong side of the road.
What's wrong with that?
40. It says 40.
You are 40.
I don't want the whole world telling, do I?
You're having a party tonight.
My 39th. My official biography says I was born on the same day as Cuba Gooding Jr., and that makes me 39, thank you very much. Rose, pick up signals from Venezuela.
Why would you want to pick up signals from Venezuela?
Well, I don't know, but now I can find out.
Password encryption services.
Well, that certainly looks like Cybermen.
Nah. No, it's Apple. What are you talking
Thank you,
about?
Mrs. Tyler.
I want to believe all the Zeppelins have a point so they can poke into each other in war.
TARDIS draws its power from the universe, but it's the wrong universe. It's like diesel in a petrol engine.
But I've seen it in comics. People go hopping from one alternative world to another. It's easy.
Not in the real world.
Like this.
There's food.
All you can eat free of charge. Don't just stand there. Fill your faces with pasties.
You're lying. It's easy for you to say. Why did you last start?
So come and get it while it's hot. That's it, kind sir. Get in there and fill your face.
I mean, just when is anything free?
We could go outside and lash it up to the national grid.
Wrong sort of energy. It's got to come from my universe.
But we don't have anything.
There's me.
Like blowing on an ember.
I think I'm away 10 years of my life. One every second.
That's gonna come back to bite him like 100 seasons.
There's Pete, my dad, and Jackie. Still married mum. But they never had kids.
Give me that phone.
They're rich. They got a house and cars and everything they want. They haven't got me.
I think I saw this episode of The Fairly Odd Parents.
Stay where you are, both of you. Rose, come back here. Mickey, come back here right now.
Just want to see him.
Yeah, I got things to see and all.
Like what?
Well, you don't know anything about me, do you? It's always about Rose. I'm just a spare part.
Sorry, I've got to go.
Mickey was a mistake.
Back here, 24 hours.
You know what, Mickey? You're not the dangerous
Yeah.
one.
If I haven't found something better.
You're just both infuriating.
She has been with him long enough to know that that's a stupid idea.
Oh, yeah.
Now I realize without it, there'd be no dramatic conflict.
Oh,
but
yeah.
seriously,
I'm alright to get past.
Yeah? No bother. Curfew doesn't start till 10.
There's a curfew.
Of course there is. Where you been living, mate? Up there with the tops.
Daily download published by Cybermen Industries.
That's a heck of a comedian. It got everyone.
You lot, you're obsessed. You do anything for the latest upgrade.
Right. Not my lot. Different world, remember?
Not so far off your world. This place is only parallel. Mr. Futile very well connected. Oh, okay, I'll give up. Let's go and see you.
what if there's a parallel Mickey?
It's me. I came home.
Ricky?
It's Mickey.
I know my own grandson's name. It's Ricky. Now come here.
Okay, I'm Ricky. Of course I am Ricky. That's me.
No. The house right on the street, that was very much the house that we lived in Mildenhall. Front door right on the sidewalk and then the street.
But I did a protocol search. Turns out that's a dummy company established by guess who?
I don't know who.
Cybermen Industries.
Well, now we've got evidence.
Bad news is they've arrested Thin Jimmy.
No,
So
Thin
that just
Jimmy.
leaves you.
Leaves me what?
The number one. Top of the list. London's most wanted.
Oh, you're in
Okay.
trouble now.
I am dying, sir.
I'm aware of that. I'm very sorry.
Without this project, you have condemned me. My inventions have advanced this whole planet. Would you have all that perish?
Oh wait, is this Mondas?
But you're not God.
Well, I mean, Mondas
I'm really very sorry.
was
but
a
I think you
twin
should end it
planet to Earth in the same universe, so...
Mr. Tyler.
Still, it's not the only country in the world. There's always New Germany.
This is the homeland. My birthplace. You may leave.
Thank you, sir.
He looks familiar, but I can't say from where.
Lumic?
Yeah.
Great.
I know he was on Harry Potter, but...
sir.
And turn to the left. Forward march.
Yeah, I feel like you could sell this to America, just say it's great for war. Or it comes with oil.
Cover up that noise. Give us track number 90. What are you doing there?
What am I doing here? What am I doing there?
Oops.
You want to know what's going on? Work in the kitchen. According to Lucy, that man over there,
Who's Lucy?
she's carrying the solar pinwheels.
Person from the
That's
kitchen.
Lucy, is it?
Lucy says that is the president of Great Britain.
Well, there's a president, not a prime minister.
Seems so.
Maybe Lucy's just a bit thick.
All these different worlds, not one of them gets it right.
It's not funny.
You're talking to London's most wanted. But target number one is Lumic, and we are going to bring him down. From your kitchen. Have you got a problem with that? No, it's a good kitchen. What do they do? What the hell are they?
Funny enough, they're in stealth mode right now.
It's worth a second chance. Are you commenting on my marriage? No, I was just... Who the hell do you think you are? You're staff. You're nothing but staff. You're just the serving girl, for God's sake. And you are certainly not getting paid. Don't you dare talk to me.
Is there a universe where Jackie isn't a headache?
Simon.
You about to tell me this is a two-parter?
Okay, I won't tell you that.
What are they?
Cybermen.
They look so slick, though.
What happens if I refuse? Then you are not compatible. What happens then? You will be deleted.
I mean, you probably could have figured that out.
Well, that's new. They didn't used to electrocute people.
Well,
Oh my God, look at you. I'll never see you again.
Yeah, no offense, sweetheart, but who the hell are you? Bruce! That's not me. That's like the other one.
Oh, as if things weren't bad enough. There's two Mickeys.
You are incompatible.
But this is a surrender.
You will be deleted.
But we're surrendering. Listen to me. We surrender.
You are inferior. Man will be reborn as Cyberman, but you will perish under maximum deletion. Delete, 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 delete.
Exterminate.
next time.
All right. So, in this universe, drop the top of me. The Cybermen were not from a separate planet.
Right.
But the invention of some guy named John Lumick.
Yes.
Okay. So that's why the Doctor didn't recognize it at first.
Yeah.
Okay.
And in this Earth, there has been no attack of Cybermen at all. I don't think it's ever stated in the show, but I think someone said once that there are no alternate versions of the Time Lords. Like, the Time Lords only existed in our universe, so there's no alternates of them, no alternate of the Master, no alternate of the Doctor, it's just them. So, I mean, we don't know pretty much anything about this universe. We don't know if they've had the Daleks and the Sontarans and everything. All we know is, at this very moment, they have created the Cybermen. So,
well, all right then.
Yeah. So, now, did you get it before the title dropped?
No.
Okay. Then I did good. But you did get it at some point.
Well, yes. The first clue, really, visually, was when the two things connected. Because that's the original Cybermen configuration. But again, I'm trying to figure out if this was, Mondus, if this tied into it. But you're saying it's a completely parallel universe and nothing else is connected to anything we've seen previously. This is an entirely different rise of the Cybermen. But the Doctor should still understand how to defeat them.
Yeah, it's literally just that there's no connection to any previous Cybermen factions on Talos, Mondas, any of that. It's just that on this Earth, the upgrade that Lumic created happened to be Cybermen. And, I mean, it's like the Doctor says about this world. It's like Earth, just a little different. So they have Cybermen, but how they came about was different. So... And I mean, yeah, just the fact that they are of Earth. Like, the Cybermen have never been of Earth before. They've either been of Mondas or Telos or whatever. They've been out in the galaxy, and other galactic nations basically have faced the Cybermen. But this is all concentrated on this Earth, basically. So,
which is why it's called Rise of the Cybermen, no doubt.
Yes, it is absolutely Rise of the Cybermen. And that's why last episode, when I loaded up the DVD, it was just right there, front and center, and I panicked and tried to get around that so that... Because it's the thing is, you were saying, like, oh, I'm not going to remember it. And I was like, you're going to remember it because it's the Cybermen. It would be like if I loaded it up and the next episode was called, By the Way, the Master Comes Back. So, anyway. But other than me trying to keep the spoilers down, what did you think of this episode?
Well, it's interesting. There was an interesting comment, something about the elites living up there. So, I mean, this is very much like that. What was that? District 9, that sci-fi movie that we saw set in South Africa, where all the elites lived in the floating cities and all the plebeians, the bourgeoisie, were down on Earth. But there were a lot of what appeared to be, I mean, Pete and Jackie and the president. So there's a whole lot of people who would seem to be elites, but aren't living up in the Zeppelins. Yeah,
it definitely feels like something that's not entirely fleshed out in this one. I don't remember District 9 at all. I think I was
rewatch it because it was really good.
I think that was more about like there were like alien refugees and stuff like that. Yeah, there was. I remember Alita Battle Angel was kind of the same way of like there's just the normal poor people that are on the ground, and then there are the cities that are connected by the long cables and stuff that are in the sky. So. But yeah, you're right, because with like Pete and Jackie's house, that is just on the ground. So it's like, unless it's a thing of like the businesses are up in the Zeppelins,
or the scientists, the people like Lumic.
Yeah, maybe. But even then, I mean, his factory was also on the ground. So then again, I guess it was a secret project to do. It is also the thing of, like, with Lumic, okay, I understand him doing this for himself. Yeah. He's sick, his body is failing him, but his mind is, still perfect. I can understand upgrading himself, maybe, into a Cyberman. The fact that he... Obviously, this is where the crazy factor comes in of, well, if I must be upgraded... the rest of the world should share in this amazing evolution of humanity. And it's like, I don't know about that, man.
Yeah. And the fact that literally he's taken away their will, that they're basically just, following his orders. They are only following orders like good soldiers should.
Yeah.
I hope that's not a comment on what's coming up in the next episode. But it would make perfect sense if he upgraded himself. And then... essentially because he was humanity 2.0, that he would be then, saying, well, now that I'm upgraded both in body and in mind, I can then, rule the world. I mean, we dealt with, Salamander and dozens of other, the Master for that matter, dozens of other people. But I'm not seeing the sense of why he feels that the homeless people need to be upgraded. Why didn't they upgrade the people at the party? I mean, it would stand to reason that that many of them would actually be in better physical shape to become, and their minds would certainly be better than the average homeless person. So, again, I like where it's going, but it's got some real, at this point, story flaws, some threads going that I'm just going, I have no idea where this is going.
Yeah. Well, and it's also, too, like, with the whole thing of the Cybermen saying, delete, it's like, it's very much taking from the Daleks with their, exterminate, which you could honestly say that John Lumick is supposed to be a play on Davros,
Well, he's running around in a wheelchair.
Yeah. And so that it's kind of an interesting thing, but you kind of wonder, like, okay, but yeah, what is the full motivation? Like, I understand upgrading yourself, but is the only reason he wants to upgrade the rest of humanity just because he's crazy, or is there like more to the motivation than that? Like what about this actually upgrades humanity if they're not really doing anything, or is this just like processing power? Or is it a thing of like he will just stand atop of everyone, and because he has all these cyber slaves, basically, it will allow him to go even further beyond, basically, and maybe even evolve humans more.
Yeah. Like, now, you want to talk about, and that you just gave me the spark of an idea. That would have been a really interesting twist, that if instead of his name being Lumic, that his name was some anagram of Davros. And people would then go, oh, wait a minute, in this parallel world, this is the guy who will invent the Daleks, but instead it turns out to be the Cybermen, and you go, oh, that's a surprise. But so
yeah. Well, and especially too, just because, I mean, this is episode 5. We're not even really halfway through the season, and we're already getting the Cybermen when we've so recently had the Daleks, which I guess also kind of works with season 1, where about halfway you got the Dalek episode, and then at the end you got the Daleks being sort of the main threat. But here it's like, okay, well, wouldn't you want to, especially because this is already a 2-part, it's like, well, wouldn't you want to kind of save the Cybermen for something like a finale, because they are such a big deal, but having it so quickly, it's like, yeah, I don't know, and they could have played maybe more into that of maybe tricking you thinking it's the Daleks, and then it ended up being the Cybermen. So I don't know. And then there's angst. There's a lot of Rose and Mickey angst going around. Yeah. It is definitely a thing of like, exactly what you said, of like, at this point, Rose should know better. Yeah. Mickey, I guess not, but Mickey's always just kind of trouble. So it's just like, but there is a part of me that's like, okay, but because like when you see Mickey with his grandmother, and he is getting kind of emotional, he's like, maybe I can put things right this time. We'll actually fix the carpet on the stairs and stuff. And it's like, there's a part of me that at the very least empathizes with them of why this is so important with them. Yeah. But on the other hand, you do understand the Doctor, that it's like, this isn't right. This isn't your family. This is someone else's family.
And especially since we watched Father's Day, and she realizes what happens when you tamper, even accidentally, with the timeline, that she should know better. That even she says, I know this isn't my world, but, and if she just wanted to go see them and see that they lived in a nice house and that he had a great job, then she could say, that's fine, I'm happy. But considering everything that happened before, that she literally nearly destroyed the Doctor and the TARDIS by interfering with the timeline, that she should just, when he says you can't do this, she says, okay, you're right, maybe we can just look at them from afar. So that's a writing flaw, and this author of this episode is not one of the ones we've seen before, is it?
I don't think so.
So that, again, I'm not saying that the writing is not up to the standard of Mark Gatiss and Russell T Davies. I always forget his name for some reason, but it's an interesting concept, and I'd like to see where it's going. But to me, it's obvious that there's I guess the best word is continuity problem from everything that we've seen before coming up to this episode. Yeah, and that's not just in New Who; that's also in Classic Who.
Yeah, because I mean, it almost reads like a new writer who's not just like up to date on all the episodes. Because you're right, this does retread on Father's Day a little bit. Now, I mean, I guess to be fair, Rose never said explicitly that she was going to go and try to become their daughter and everything. At the very least, she just wanted to see them.
Yeah.
And it's the Doctor freaking out, pretty much just not trusting her that that's all she's going to do. But even still, it's like it sounds like, you know, a writer getting the memo. It's like, you know, if you have, you know, this alternate version, it's like, well, you know, this parallel world, well, Rose, her father died. We did a whole episode about that, but her father is currently dead, so we could bring back the actor and have a parallel version of him and stuff. And with that, you know, maybe they were just like, okay, well, what sort of conflict would that bring to this character? And they just kind of wrote this. I could also see that being the reason why Jackie is pretty much no different from her, we'll just say Earth 1 counterpart. We'll just go the DC route, Earth 1, Earth 2. Because, you know, which I guess Pete is not really that different other than he's successful. But then you get Ricky, who's very, very different from Mickey.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it's more of just a thing of Ricky's life is just different from Mickey's, you know? But I mean, again, 20 years, Pete and Jackie are very different from what they were in our world. So it's like, you know, I don't know. It's like there's not really... I don't know. Trying to make a point, it's falling apart.
Yeah, it's confusing.
Oh, yeah. So...
the center cannot hold, things fall apart.
Oh, yeah. The other thing I did write down was... It's interesting because you kind of get commentary in there as well about technology and stuff. I feel like this almost wasn't subtle enough. And I don't know how you would make it more subtle, but, you know, we've watched previous episodes like, you know, what was it, The Long Game, where they're like, oh, we're going through, like, you know, we have this perfect access to the news, and that was also another thing of, like, you know, information going straight into your brain and stuff like that. And then, you know, we had the follow-up to that, which was the commentary on, you know, all those game shows and, you know, people being glued to them and stuff like that. Whereas this one didn't really feel so subtle of just like, oh, well, everyone has these earpieces and, you know, Cybus Industries just beams this information straight into them. And because, you know, everybody has these, they're so easy to basically be taken over and transformed into Cybermen, just basically just tech people, essentially. And it was interesting because I thought about that, and it's like, I don't know, actually, like, I feel like that does hold up. Like, there are so many people today that would be like, oh, Apple is giving us a new way to, you know, live our lives with our headphones, you know, our AirPods in at all times, and they can take us over and become Apple people. Sure. But I feel like, especially now, it's like, that's almost not holding up. Because I'm seeing so many more people that are like, I like having multiple things, you know? I don't need everything to just be on this little, you know, wonder slab I got here. You know, some people are going back and getting, like, old MP3 players and using those, or they've got records and CDs and such. I've got a CD that's coming in pretty soon, actually, that I'm going to be listening to. So it's a thing of, like, now I look at this and I'm like, obviously this whole message and, you know, what the Doctor says of, like, well, your world's not that far off with how plugged in you are to technology. It's like, I feel like that's there, and also it almost doesn't hold up as well, you know? So,
and we've been warned literally since the 1950s about this exact thing happening. I think Isaac Asimov was one of the first to project the idea of a connected internet sort of thing. And he even said that there would be, people would not need, you know, phones and televisions, things like that, because there's apparently a place right behind your ear where you can bore a tiny hole in the bone there, and they would implant what is basically in your phone, put that in there, and that, again, it would be beamed directly into you. Michael Crichton, great writer of, you know, Jurassic Park and all those others, wrote a novel called The Terminal Man, where somebody who was having seizures got an implant in his brain that was supposed to help control the seizures. But unfortunately, all it did was it provoked him into having more seizures because he enjoyed the sensation and he ended up killing people. Spoiler alert, if you haven't read The Terminal Man or seen the movie. So, it's just one of those things that I think humanity, coming into the this is the early 21st century, we would know better. We've seen the warning signs. And despite guys like this, who had obviously people helping him. The first guy said, it's alive and we've got to report this to Geneva and all that. He can't be the only one. He can't be the only one working in this organization who says what you're doing is wrong, sir.
Yeah.
Again, so it's, I don't want to say it's implausible, but it's kind of a tired trope that you got the evil genius who's going to take over the world and nobody sees this coming.
Yeah. It's also, maybe it's also a thing of like, with this, it's like I almost see like the whole thing with the earpieces and beaming the information directly to your brain and stuff. The thing is, nowadays I can definitely see companies trying something like this.
Yeah.
I mean, just the amount of tech garbage news I read on Twitter every day. Like, I think just like yesterday, Disney announced that they're really going to work on having generative AI so that they can make their movies and stuff. And we all and like everyone on Twitter was like, well, 100 years, this is it, this is the death, like let's all get dressed up for the funeral for Disney because this is it. And it's like, so there's so many of these companies that are trying to push this terrifying dystopian future, but I feel like whereas this episode presents it as there's only the small group of rebels that have these, that are free of this, Ricky and his mates, basically, they're free because they don't do this. It's like, I feel like there would still be, in this day and age at least, a sizable chunk of the population that's like, no, like I have this relationship to technology, obviously. We have our computers, we have video game systems, we have phones, sure, but we're not going to let it be all-consuming like that. Like, I feel like there's still that chunk of people nowadays, and I don't know how that happened. Maybe we're all just tired now. The past 10 or 15 years, we were just like, you know what? I don't need to be on Twitter all the time, I don't need all of this. Maybe because corporations, they don't shut up. Because, and especially, too, because now corporations are people almost of like, at least they're the CEO. So, we look at things, we look at people like Elon Musk and we say, nah, let's not do that.
Yeah.
Don't take a drink for how many times we bring up Elon Musk on this show, because it's happened a lot in the last season or so. But
yeah, I've read articles recently about how the billionaire tech bros think that the idea of democratic Republican government is outdated, and that these tech visionaries know the way of the future, and they're literally, I mean, with J.D. Vance trying to essentially get rid of the current structure of not just our government but our society and reorganize it so that they're in control. But again, we've been watching this stuff for the last 70 years and we're looking at these guys going, are you insane? Elon Musk, and even some of the more philanthropic of them, Bill Gates, Jeff Bezos, these guys aren't tethered to reality in many ways. They're not going to change society. They're not going to change culture. Yes, they can add to it, they can detract from it, but culture is going, as Jeff Goldblum says in Jurassic Park, life finds a way. This is not going to happen. So to see this is what, 2006 that this was filmed and released.
Yeah.
Again, even 20 years ago, this was a bit suspect.
Yeah. And even just with like some CEOs, like the CEO of Warner Brothers is like one of the most hated CEOs like ever. Like I've never heard a good thing about that guy, especially because it's just like, with how much money he gets paid, and Warner Brothers will go in and be like, it's like, oh, we've fully created and completed and edited and everything this Batgirl movie, and then Warner Brothers is like, we could release that, or we could not release your finished product and get a tax write-off, and they did, and we've still never seen Batgirl, and it's just like, whether it's good or not, let us watch it, let us try, So it's just like,
Now, and again, that brings up a slight variation in this particular script. They were taking the homeless people. But this would make more sense if Lumic, being in the throes of some kind of disease or some kind of problem, if he said, we can take the sick people, the people who are terminally ill, and we can help them. We can make them better, the $6 million man. That would have made more sense. But just grabbing homeless people off the street, again, it doesn't have the right feel to it for some reason.
It's like someone watched the first 5 minutes of Christmas Carol and then left. It was just like, it's like, oh, the people in the prisons and the poorhouses, the surplus population, and he's just like, pause the movie, I got it, I know where we're going, and yeah, like you could have done that, and especially too because it's like, I get, I'm not homeless, I don't understand the homeless mindset. I don't know if I might never will. But if a large semi with people in hazard suits and a guy in dressed in full black came up and excitedly said, "Hey, we have free food," I don't know if I would go over right then. Now, granted, the one guy was like, "Yeah, but how long have I been starving?"
Yeah.
And I get that, but there's, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's like it would have worked a little bit better if it was like, the terminally ill, and that would lead more into, it's like, oh yes, we can fix humanity. We can get rid of all of these problems by becoming Cybermen. And then maybe you could even take it to an extreme, like, he starts off with this, but as he, maybe loses more of his sanity, he starts thinking, well, all these other parts of humanity that aren't actually problems are problems, and that feeds more into why he would want to upgrade all of humanity into Cybermen. So we just went off about like a lot of stuff, but here we are. So yeah, it is one of those things, like when we would have to split up episodes in classic Doctor Who, where it's like, we'll do 3 parts and then we'll do the next 3 parts. There were some times where I was like, it's hard to really comment on this because we haven't seen the full story yet, and so we'd have shorter discussions. That has just not been the case with modern Doctor Who, So, if anything, it might be that the shorter discussion is actually the second part, because now there's less to talk about.
Yeah.
So...
But this is the first episode from the first and now second seasons where I've gone, this is the right... Now, again, the characterizations, the acting, even the direction is all very good. Lumic is not over the top. He's not Mavic Chen or any of the others. But the writing, this is the first time I've looked at the writing and went, this is not up to the standards that we've seen.
Yeah, it's kind of it's very basic, like... Okay, what do we do with a parallel world story? And they're just kind of going for the basic things where it's like, okay, but a parallel Doctor Who story, Like, that's kind of a big thing, Like, we see all of these crazy things on other planets, other times, and it's like, but what does an actual parallel world look like in Doctor Who? I mean, that was, like, the good thing about Inferno, was seeing that parallel world, the different Brigadier and Liz Shaw and stuff, like, all of that part was interesting, But they did that, and then it almost seems like a standard, like, humans becoming robots story, and it's like, okay, but there's more interesting things about the Cybermen, and you're not really pulling from the Cybermen part of that.
Yeah, and even if he had volunteers, even if he told people, just going through the streets saying, is your life not what you want it to be? We can help you. Yeah, but just, again, it just seems to be so random. We're just going to pull homeless people off the street and turn them into cyber soldiers.
Well, yeah. It feels it almost feels like, what Lumic knows, like Lumic knows what he's doing is evil, is not actually what he's saying of like, oh, well, we will get rid of all the flaws of humanity and upgrade. It's like, you almost feel like Lumic should, be completely convinced that he is good. He's almost, the martyr, that no country will accept his experiments, but he knows he can truly save humanity. Yeah. But it doesn't really feel like that. It feels like he's dying, and he's taking everybody with him, basically. So, again, not bad by any stretch, but it is just kind of it's an interesting one, basically. So,
to be continued.
To be continued. Next time, not a spoiler title, because it's The Age of Steel. Pretty basic, pretty easy.
You mean not The Age of Aluminium?
No. No, not The Age of... I already mentioned the whole thing of they drive on the wrong side of the road, so I guess I shouldn't bring up... I shouldn't double down on anti-British things, so it's fine. I just do it so that you guys will comment and it'll help the algorithm anyway, so... You got anything else?
I got nothing.
Then that is basically it. With all of that being said, we're Alex and Dad from 7th Hour Films, and we will see you guys next time. Take care. Alright guys, thanks for watching this video. There's a bunch of links on screen if you want to go click around any of those. There's a playlist with all of our modern Doctor Who reactions, as well as another playlist for all of our classic Doctor Who reactions if you want to go check those out. There's also a subscribe button and a Patreon button on screen, as well as other links in the description if you want to go check out any of those. See you guys later.